beautiful, beautiful, beautiful people. I hope everyone is having an amazing, marvelous, and magnificent day. My name is TatiV, and if you're a true crime lover like me, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I try my best to post 2 videos a week. That is Mondays and Fridays. Mondays I post true crime videos and ASMR, and Fridays I have a series called Freaky Friday where we discuss all things freaky. So if any of that interests you, you might as well join the true crime family. It's like pouring down raining, so I'm so sorry if you can hear that in the background. Actually, it might be a little like relaxing, so that might be a good thing. Thank you so much to everyone that wished me well. Me and my family unfortunately did have COVID. Well, I think we still do have COVID. Me, my son, my fiance, and my sister. And I kind of knew something was wrong because I rarely get sick. Like, I have a strong immune system. So when I woke up feeling like I got hit by a bus, I kind of knew something wasn't right, but I just thought it was maybe a cold or something. And then I lost my smell, so I knew I had a strong feeling that I had COVID, and I was right. So thank you all so much. I appreciate you all. I love you all, and thank you so much. You guys are so sweet. Happy Halloween to those who celebrate Halloween. Stay safe if you're going out to trick or treat, going to a party, and even if you're staying home, make sure you double check the doors, the windows, make sure they're locked, because people get behind these masks and start acting crazy on Halloween, y'all. So stay safe and watch your surroundings. So today's video is gonna be a very special one. I'm going to be talking about the 7 horrific crimes that were committed on Halloween. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Sit back, relax, grab your snack, grab your candy, grab some water, some wine, and enjoy some crime time. And also, I forgot to mention that the look is, I'm supposed to be like a sexy pet. I'll put the inspiration picture on the screen so y'all can see what I was trying to go for. I have my tutu and my bodysuit on, so I was trying to go for something really cute. Warning, this content is for educational purposes only. Some viewers might find this disturbing. Parental discretion is advised. Halloween is a day dedicated to being someone that you're not. It is a day filled with giving out candy, telling ghostly stories, and carving jack-o'-lanterns. On this spooky day, we will be discussing the not so positive acts committed on Halloween. On the afternoon of October 31st, 2010, 16-year-old Devin Griffin walked into his family home in Martin, Ohio. He came back home to change out of his church clothes when he found it quite odd that the house was quiet. None of his family members were up. Devin decided to go look around the house to locate his family members. He entered the master bedroom where his parents slept and noticed their maroon comforters were still over their heads. Assuming they were asleep, Devin began conversing with them, thinking that would wake them, but it didn't. He shook his mother's leg, but still no movement. He removed the comforter and revealed the bloody mess. At first, he thought this was a Halloween prank, but quickly realized his family had been murdered. He called his aunt Lori, who arrived at the home and called as Derek did not come in for work, and she told authorities that the family's F-150 was missing as well. His mother, 46-year-old Susan Liske, had been inappropriately touched and was shot 3 times close range. His stepfather, 53-year-old William Liske, had been shot in the head and face 5 times. Devin's brother, 23-year-old Derek Griffin, was locked upstairs in his bedroom when police kicked down Derek's door and found him curled up in the bed facing the wall. He died from blunt force trauma. According to his autopsy, Derek died within minutes of the first blow. There was a bloody claw hammer in the house. None of the bodies had defense wounds on them. It seemed like the crimes were committed while they were asleep. Authorities noticed that William Liske Jr. was missing along with the family truck. There was a warrant issued for his arrest. He may be in the area, and he was armed and dangerous. Days after the murder, William Liske Jr. was found at a family cabin in Perry Township of Carroll County. He was transported back to Ottawa County on 1 count of aggravated murder. Police had to find more evidence to charge him with more counts. In March of 2011, William Liske Jr., who is now 25 years old, was evaluated at the Court Diagnostic and Treatment Center in Toledo, Ohio, and was competent to stand trial. On September 12, 2011, William Liske Jr. pleaded guilty to 3 counts of aggravated murder for the killings of his dad, stepmother, and his stepbrother. He was sentenced to 3 life sentences. He apologized for killing his family and blamed his actions on mental illness and Satan. On March 31st, 2015, 29-year-old William Liske Jr. was found dead in his prison cell from a self-inflicted injury. On Halloween night in 2004, an intruder entered a home on Dorsey Street in Napa, California, that 3 women named Leslie, Adrienne, and Lauren shared. The 3 women passed out candy and was in bed just before midnight. Adrienne and Leslie were upstairs in separate bedrooms, and Lauren had a bedroom downstairs. Just after 1 a.m., Lauren awoke to loud noises coming from upstairs. She heard a scream, stood still for a moment to kind of hear what was going on. Then she ran out the back door. The intruder went out a ground floor window, so Lauren never made contact with them. Lauren waited until she felt like the intruder was gone, and she re-entered the house. While walking up the stairs, she heard moaning and cries for help. She said in an interview that she did not know what to expect. Adrienne was suffering from multiple stab wounds, but was still barely alive. She found Leslie face down in a pool of blood. Lauren tried calling 911 on the house phone, but the line was dead. She grabbed her cell phone and dialed 911 while leaving the house because she wasn't sure if she did not see him at all. Police had a feeling that the killer may have been someone the women knew because he didn't take anything. He did not inappropriately touch the women. He just went for his target and left. This murder was the first murder in Napa since 2001. Police began questioning family, friends, and relatives of the women. They interviewed over 1,000 people over the next 11 months and collected 218 samples of their DNA. In 2005, police released that they had a DNA sample from the cigarette butts found at the scene of the crime. They released the unusual brand called Camel Turkish Gold in hopes that this would jog someone's memory on who they knew that smoked this brand. Days later, they received a tip. On September 27th, 2005, Eric Koppel turned himself in and confessed to the murders of Adrian and Leslie. And Eric was not a stranger to one of the victims, Adrian Insogna. He was Adrian's best friend, Lily's fiance. Lily and Adrian were best friends. They worked, they hung outside of work, and that made Eric kind of jealous of their relationship. He helped the women move into their home and also attended their funerals and candlelight vigils. Eric was going to take himself out, but his family convinced him to turn himself in, and he did not want to harm himself without telling the truth. In 2007, 27-year-old Eric Koppel was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murders of 26-year-old Adrian Insogna and Leslie Marzara. The death penalty was off the table because he pleaded guilty and he confessed. At the sentencing hearing on January 12th, 2007, Adrian's mother spoke out saying, quote, "My baby never wore a turtleneck sweater in her life, and yet she had to be buried in one and still could not hide the extent of her wounds," end quote. Adrian's best friend Lily, and also the fiance of her killer, spoke out saying, quote, "Adrian and I were good friends. Our friendship bond was stressed when Eric confessed, but not broken. I know a gentler Eric." She continued to say she knew something was bothering him and that there is nothing in this world that you could do to make me love you less, end quote. Leslie's mother read a 13-page statement saying how much Eric robbed her and her family of Leslie's future. She stated that she wishes she could forgive him, but she cannot at this time, and for the rest of his life, him and his family will experience terror, desperation, hopelessness, and violence. Lauren, the surviving victim, spoke out stating that she has had nightmares and she didn't understand how someone could have such a strong grip on her. Finally, Eric spoke out stating, quote, "I'm a broken man. I cannot fathom an explanation for my sinful deeds, the terrible agony inflicted upon a great number of people. Words evade me." He further explains that his relationship was failing, which added to his anger. He wishes he would have gotten the help that was suggested from his family. He apologizes to each of the family members for taking their loved his life, but he did not want to take the answers with him to his grave. Leslie's family built a cottage in her memory at the Calvary Home for Children in Anderson, South Carolina. 21-year-old Christopher Jenkins was a college student attending the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis. He was an outgoing, very happy, and very responsible young man. He was a two-time lacrosse captain and was planning to graduate from Carlson School of Management. On Halloween night in 2002, Christopher, his girlfriend Ashley, and a few other friends dressed up and went to Lone Tree Bar and Grill in downtown Minneapolis. The friends arrived at the bar between 10:30 and 11 p.m. Sometime after midnight, Christopher was kicked out of the bar and the bouncer was told to not let him back in. It was 20 degrees outside. His wallet, phone, and keys were still inside with his friends. Only wearing his Skippy Indian costume, he began walking home. The bouncer said he saw Christopher make a left on Hennepin Avenue. 4 months after that Halloween night, on February 27th, 2003, Christopher's body was found in the Mississippi River in downtown Minneapolis, floating on its back with his arms in front. Originally, authorities believed Christopher's death was at the hands of himself, but his family fought hard to prove that wasn't the case. He had everything to live for, a future and no history of mental illness. Christopher's family hired a private investigator and many other experts, and they all agreed on the same thing. If Christopher would have jumped into the river and drowned himself, the body would have been in a different state. The body would have been found face down with the arms towards their sides. His clothing would have been messed up, and at least one of his shoes would have been missing. His body was found on its back with the arms in front, his shirt still tucked in, and both shoes still on. He still had on jewelry, a necklace, and a ring on both the fingers. Someone called in a tip saying that they may have seen Christopher walking across the Hennepin Avenue Bridge. There were 2 surveillance cameras on the Federal Reserve Bank pointing to the bridge. The footages were reviewed, and there wasn't any sign of Chris walking across the bridge that night. It would have been nearly impossible for someone to walk across the bridge and the video footage not pick it up. The private investigator interviewed a witness that reported seeing 10 men attacking a guy outside of Times Square Pizza, which was across from the bar that Chris and his friends attended. Police allowed 2 bloodhound dogs to track Chris's scent. The dogs picked up his scent in front of the pizza shop. They followed it to the parking garage next to the pizza shop. Pieces of red feathers that matched his Indian costume, and blood drops were found in the parking garage. Not 100% sure what exactly happened between 2003 and 2006, but the case was closed and reopened again in 2006 when a new police chief named Tim was hired for this case. He reviewed all of the evidence and tips that were given back in 2003 and agreed Chris was thrown off the bridge that Halloween night. He told authorities that the men he was with robbed Chris when they received nothing in value. They threw him off the Hennepin Avenue Bridge. The way the bridge was set up, it would nearly be impossible for them to have gotten Chris over a steel beam and suspension cables without causing any injury. Chris's body had no broken bones, and that bridge has heavy traffic coming through. No one reported seeing anything suspicious that night, and the surveillance footage didn't pick up anything. Authorities soon realized that this tip was not legit. The inmate just wanted something to do, and he wanted to get some time off of his sentence. In 2006, Chris's death was declared as a homicide. The police chief offered the Jenkins family a public apology. In 2007, Hennepin County declined to press any charges due to lack of evidence. Some conspiracy theories are that Chris was killed by a police officer. Maybe his girlfriend at the time had something to do with it, or maybe his friends might have known something. I am not confirming any of these theories. I am simply just sharing with you what people are saying and have said. October 31st, 2021 will make 19 years since the death of Christopher Jenkins. If you may have seen something, heard something, or know something, please contact the Minneapolis Police Department. You can always stay anonymous. Chris's family deserves to know what happened to their baby boy, and they need closure. Also, his mother, Jan Jenkins, wrote a book called Footprints of Courage. It is on Amazon if you're interested. I will leave the link in my description box. In the early morning of October 31st, 2017, 47-year-old Amber Lynn James strangled her 9-year-old son, Ryan Tyler Rosales. His father awoke to finding his son in the kitchen, unresponsive with all of the stools on. He called 911 saying he was not breathing and he had bumps all over his face. He also attempted to perform CPR, but unfortunately it was too late. Before the murder, Amber had previously been showing signs of mental illness. The night before the murder, she had been watching conspiracy theory videos on YouTube. The day before the murder, on October 30th, Amber picked her son Ryan up from school and drove around for hours. She asked police officers if they could help her because she thought she was being followed. An officer asked Amber why she did what she did, and her response was she felt like she needed to save and protect her son. She said that Ryan was the best kid in the world. She said she prayed about it, cried about it, and then proceeded to put her hands around his throat until he was deceased. During court, Amber was evaluated, and it was determined that she could not tell the difference between right and wrong. There are two reasons an individual that committed a crime, such as murder, could be considered insane. One is if that individual is not aware of what's right and what's wrong. The second reason is if the individual isn't aware of the nature and quality of their actions. She was previously diagnosed with bipolar disorder. In 2017, Amber was charged with was found nude with the blood all over her face at approximately 7:30 a.m. when another nun sister noticed her absence around 6:30 a.m. Her nun sisters thought she might have died of natural causes at first until they realized a window was broken. The women called the police, who came over to collect evidence, such as a knife under her bed linens, fingerprints that was found on the knife, her headboard, and pieces of the broken window. An autopsy was performed on Tadia. It determined that her cause of death was strangulation. She had stab wounds to the head and neck, and she had signs of internal and external bleeding. The nun sister that found Tadia actually spoke out regarding the situation. She said, quote, "I missed her and was concerned because she rarely missed chapel. It was very much unusual that the door was closed because Sister Tadia was hard of hearing and always left her door ajar to hear the morning buzzard," end quote. On November 9th, 1981, 17-year-old Johnny Gary Frank was arrested for the murder of Tadia Benz. His fingerprints were a match to the fingerprints found at the scene. Johnny maintained his innocence, but he was found guilty and sentenced to death. He was put on death row in Texas Elias Unit Prison. His original execution date was January 6, 1992, but he was given a reprieve, which is a fancy way of saying his execution date was postponed by Governor Ann Richards. On February 11th, 1992, 28-year-old Johnny Frank Garrett was executed by lethal injection. His last meal was ice cream, and his last words were, quote, "I like to thank my family for loving me and taking care of me. The rest of the world can kiss my ass," end quote. After his execution, there was so much speculation that he could have possibly been an innocent man. They learned after his death that Johnny Garrett had a rough childhood. He was beaten by his stepfather and forced to participate in adult films as a child. He was introduced to drugs and alcohol at the age of 10 and was given paint thinner that could cause brain damage in the long run. This information was not presented during his trial. Could this have possibly changed the outcome of his trial? This case intrigued a Texas attorney by the name of Jesse so much that he made a documentary called The Last Word, which is based on this case. On the evening of October 31st, 1973, 9-year-old Lisa Ann French went trick-or-treating dressed as a hobo. She wore a black felt hat, a green parka, blue masking tape on her jeans, and she drew fake freckles on her face. She was on her way to a Halloween party at Pumpkin Place on East Bank Street, but she figured she would stop by a couple of houses on the way there. Originally, she was supposed to be accompanied by her classmate named Ann Parker, but she was grounded, so Lisa was left on her own. After leaving another classmate's house, she arrived at Gerald Turner Jr.'s house. She rang his doorbell. Upon answering, she said trick or treat with her candy bag open. According to Gerald's confession, Lisa began conversing about candy, and he eventually lured his bedroom. He forcefully touched her and killed her. He claimed to have attempted CPR on Lisa, but was unsuccessful. His girlfriend arrived home from the same Halloween party that Lisa was supposed to attend and found Lisa. Gerald told his girlfriend several times that he was sick. She also said he made multiple trips to the bathroom. After his girlfriend left, Gerald stuffed Lisa's little body in her clothes in separate garbage bags, drove to TatiV, Wisconsin, where he dumped her body and her clothes in a farm field. He wiped down Lisa's shoes and the zipper on her jacket to get rid of any evidence. That same evening, Lisa's mother, Marianne, began to worry when Lisa did not show up for her curfew at 7 p.m. By 10 p.m., a search party began searching for Lisa. We're going to now dive into Lisa's background. Lisa Ann French was born on June 2nd, 1964, in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And also, fun fact, that is where the children apparel company Oshkosh B'gosh originated from. Lisa was born to parents Ellen French and Mary Ann. 9-year-old Lisa was a 4th grader at Jacqueline Elementary School, and she was a part of Girl Scouts. She was living in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, with her mom, stepdad, and her little brother that was just a baby during the time of the murder. Lisa and Gerald lived a half of a block from each other. She would spend time with Gerald the infant and would have some conversations with Gerald. A 4-day extensive search for Lisa, 5,000 volunteers, 700 police officers, and the National Guard were searching for Lisa. On November 3rd, 1973, at 11:30 a.m., a farmer discovered 2 brown plastic bags behind a barbed wire. It was the corpse of Lisa Ann French and her Halloween costume. An autopsy was performed, and it was determined that she died from asphyxiation. On November 8th, 1973, Lisa's funeral was held at Emmanuel Trinity Lutheran Church in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. A $10,000 reward was posted for the killer of Lisa Ann French. Gerald was a suspect in the murder, but it took him 9 months to finally confess to the crime. He was arrested on August 9th, 1974. He took a polygraph, which came back inconclusive. Samples of his hair and bedspread were a match to the DNA found on Lisa's body. In his confession, he admitted when he laid eyes on Lisa that day, he became highly aroused. On February 4th, 1975, Gerald Turner Jr. was found guilty on second-degree murder and was sentenced to 38 years and 6 months in prison. Gerald was released twice, the first time for good behavior and the second time is unknown. He was sent back to prison in 2003 to serve 15 years for being in possession of inappropriate pictures while he was in the halfway house. On February 1st, 2018, Gerald was scheduled to be released from prison. Lisa's mother created an online petition to keep Gerald incarcerated. As of 2021, it has over 34,000 signatures. On October 31st, 1979, 16-year-old Shirley Lynette Linford was standing outside of a gas station trying to catch a ride home from a Halloween party that she attended in the suburbs of Los Angeles, California. This is how investigators think Shirley got into their van. Lawrence Bytaker and Roy Norris pulled up to the gas station. Shirley recognized Lawrence as a regular at the restaurant she was working at. She figured they knew each other, so this ride would not be harmless, but unfortunately she was wrong. Upon entering the van, she was offered some marijuana by Roy, but she declined. Lawrence drove the van to a secluded road where she was held at knife point and then bound and gagged. Shirley began pleading with them to not touch her. Lawrence told her to scream as loud as she could as he proceeded to hit her with a hammer. For 2 hours, Shirley was tortured in the worst way possible. During this torture, Roy and Lawrence cut on a tape recorder that recorded them yelling at Shirley, encouraging her to yell as loud as she could while inflicting pain upon her. Roy strangled Shirley with a wire coat that was tightened with pliers. Her body was discarded on a random lawn. On November 1st, 1979, Shirley Ledford's body was found by a jogger. According to her autopsy, she was violently, inappropriately touched. She had extensive blunt force trauma to her face, head, breast, and left elbow. She died from strangulation. Her rectum and genitalia had been torn. Her left hand had a puncture wound, and a finger on her right hand had been slashed. Lawrence Bytaker and Roy Norris, later known to the world as the Toolbox Killers, were American serial killers who killed 5 teenage girls in Southern California over a 5-month period in 1970. Their known victims are 16-year-old Lucinda Lynn Schaefer, who was their first victim that was killed. The Toolbox Killers picked up over 20 female hitchhikers. I believe 5 of those were killed, and the rest of them were basically practice runs, so they could figure out how they were going to lure their victims in. On June 24th, 1979, Lucinda Schaefer was abducted while walking down the sidewalk near a church. She was approached by Lawrence and Roy. After exchanging a few words with Roy, he jumped out of the van, grabbed Lucinda, and threw her into the van. She was bound and gagged. The music was turned up full volume to drown out her screams. After an hour of torture, the killers argued amongst one another if they would kill her or not. Lucinda pleaded with them to allow her to pray for a second. They did not fulfill her request and manually strangled her. When that did not work, they wrapped a wired coat hanger around her neck and twisted it with pliers as tight as they could. Her body was then wrapped in a plastic shower curtain and thrown off a cannon. Lawrence would later say that Lucinda, quote, displayed a magnificent state of self-control and composed acceptance of the conditions of which she had no control. She shed no tears, offered no resistance, and expressed no great concern for her safety. I guess she knew what was coming, end quote. On July 8th, 1979, 18-year-old Andrea Joy Hall was hitchhiking along the Pacific Coast Highway. The killers pulled over to offer her a ride. Another car pulled over and did the same. She took the other vehicle's offer. The killers followed behind the vehicle until Andrea exited and noticed Lawrence was driving in the wrong direction towards the mountains. He insisted that everything was okay. They did not believe him and attempted to flee the van, but one of the girls was hit in the head with a bag of weights, and the other girl was bound and gagged before she could even think about doing anything. For the next 2 days, the girls were tortured and held captive. They had inappropriate pictures taken of them, and while they were forcefully touched, Lawrence recorded the whole thing on a tape recorder. Jackie was killed first. She had an object inserted in her and was strangled. Jacqueline was still alive because she was the more cooperative one, but unfortunately, it would not be long before she was next. Jacqueline was strangled. She did not immediately die. When they noticed that she was still alive, she was beaten to death by a sledgehammer. Both of the girls' bodies were thrown into an embankment. Their last victim was 16-year-old Shirley Ledford. In November of 1979, Roy admitted to a friend of his about the graphic details of their crimes. At that time, Shirley's body had been found, and Roy told the friend in graphic detail what they had done to her. The friend told his attorney, who contacted police. One of their victims, who they forcefully touched, was given several different people's mugshots, and she identified Lawrence and Roy as her abductors. They were both placed under surveillance. On November 20th, 1979, Roy was arrested for a parole violation, and Lawrence was arrested the same day for forcefully touching someone. When Lawrence's apartment was searched, they found disturbing Polaroid pictures. When they searched the van, they found a sledgehammer, bag of weights, a notebook, Vaseline, 2 necklaces that were the victims, and a tape recording. Charlie's mother identified the woman's voice as being her daughter. January 19th, 1981, Lawrence's trial began, and the tape recordings were played in the courtroom. This was their biggest piece of evidence they had. While hearing the tape recordings, most of the people in the courtroom cried, buried their heads in their hands, and even left the courtroom. Lawrence smirked as it played. One of the prosecutors said, quote, "Everybody who has heard that tape has had it affect their lives. I just picture those girls and how alone they were when they died," end quote. On February 17th, 1981, Lawrence was found guilty of numerous charges. He was sentenced to death. On March 24th, his sentence was reverted to life in prison. In April of 1981, Roy Norris was sentenced to 45 years in prison. In February of 2020, 72-year-old Roy Norris died in prison due to natural causes. In December 13th, 2019, 79-year-old Lawrence Bytaker died on death row due to natural causes. If you did not know their backgrounds by looking at these pictures of these 2 older men, they looked like someone for watching the video, If you enjoyed this type of content, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any cases you would like for me to cover, please don't forget to leave them in the comment section below. Thank you again. Stay safe, stay blessed, and I'll catch you on my next video.